Welcome back to another episode of Boses Ko, Boses Mo, Boses Natin Lahat, where every voice finds respect and understanding. And once again, we are your hosts, Zeri, Stacy, and Czarina. And for today's podcast, we have a bowl of questions here. And pipili lang naman kami ng mga questions na nandito that talks about encouraging diverse and respectful conversations. And may mga situational questions din na nandito. And we are very excited to answer all of these questions to bring to you another good episode of this podcast.
Yes, so I want to welcome even my fellow podcast speakers and to our first time listeners, welcome to the podcast. So all of this is on the go, non-scripted, and we hope that to our very own listeners, you can relate, agree, or maybe even disagree. And by the end of the podcast, we'll be excited to hear some of your thoughts, some of your reasons, and all of this are all lighthearted, all fun, and we hope that you can just enjoy the whole podcast listening to us as well. So, let's begin. Okay, so the first question says here, what does a respectful conversation look like to you? I can answer first on this. I think a respectful conversation looks like two people or even a group who are willing to listen. Like not just listen and then one ear and out the other. No, I what I mean is that hear the other side out because of course, how can any conversation go on straight or smoothly if one side is not willing to listen? We may have our own beliefs. We may think we're already right. So, if you're right, I don't think, regardless of whatever the reason is, it's still important to listen to someone and hear their side out so that you're both growing. What if your opinion or their opinion helps you understand a different perspective? Then wouldn't you want to listen? You don't want to miss out, right? It takes a lot of maturity to do it, and it shows how a person is willing to learn
That is
and
true. Not
hear them out. At the very least, have the ear to listen, to just let them say whatever they want. I think that's what a respectful conversation looks like to me.
Gosh, I agree.
So next is, what are the barriers or some common barriers to having respectful conversations? I think first of all, one of the common barriers is being close-minded or stubborn.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
say
so
for
true.
example, if in terms of politics, which is a very sensitive topic to talk about, especially with people who are, well, very strong in their opinion. If they are not just strong in their opinion, but they are close minded or stubborn, that this is my belief, this is what you should believe in too, then they're gonna have a hard time having a respectful discussion. Because, like, say for example, person number one's just trying to like figure out who to vote for in this coming elections, and person number two is maybe a Yap supporter or a Tago supporter. It depends. Thus, if the other person who's already set on their political beliefs, they'll be like, no, it's like this, like this, like this. They'll not be able to have that respectful
Yeah, that's
conversation
so true.
with
I
that
agree with
person.
that.
Yeah, basically that. Another common barrier I think that I would say is tone, use of tone. I think a lot of us don't really understand how much tone really affects the way that we have respectful conversations with other people. Like, say for example, I'm in a respectful conversation with my teacher and I just start saying, "Yo, what's up? Do you know what this is?" Then that kind of casual tone is going to be so disrespectful to the teacher
Yeah.
because she or he is my superior. Tone is what makes you set the mood, it's what makes you be respectful to other people. Or, say, for example, if I'm going to use a tone that is so high pitched and so angry, it might just heighten your feelings and just make you want to be disrespectful also in this conversation. So I think that's a very big barrier to having respectful decisions. So I think it's just mainly those two common barriers, which are, yeah, as I've said, being stubborn or close-minded, one of those, and of course the use of tone that everyone needs to, fix or at least be mindful of.
Okay, so next question. How can respectful conversations benefit personal growth and understanding? Ooh. For me, I think, or I believe, respectful conversation allow people to like listen and understand different perspectives. In a respectful conversation, you don't really have to butt in every
I
now and
I
then.
know,
agree.
You just have
right?
to, listen to what the other one is saying, and then even if you have a different perspective, you consider their beliefs or their perspective, yeah. Because despite our different perspective with someone else, we still like embrace what their beliefs are, what their perspectives are, which I think or which I believe also creates a very supportive
Yeah, I
environment
can see
for
that.
learning and growth. Like it would really be nice if everyone knows how to engage in a conversation but still be respectful about it or respectful about their approach. Yeah.
Okay, so we actually have one more question. It's a bonus question coming from, yes, one of our listeners. So we're not going to use the roulette for this one. But their question is, what role does empathy play in fostering respectful conversations? So, as we've said in our discussion, empathy is one big factor that can help. For example, if you were talking to your best friend and you guys were having conversations, I don't think you would come to a point where you would disregard their emotions if you care for them.
True.
Oh,
So, showing care, showing empathy to the person you're talking to helps a lot more than people think. So, yeah. Thank you for that question, by the way, to our listeners. So, if you guys are interested, you can also send your questions to us and we'd be answering them by the end of it.
and that ends our podcast. Oh well, that ends the podcast for today of our topic on respectful conversations. The benefits, the hardships, the all kinds of controversial topics that we need to know how to deal with, especially in family gatherings or political things, and all those things we discussed. I just thank you everyone for listening from the very start of this podcast up until now, the end of the podcast. Of course, this is not the end. Of course, we'll have weekly updates, but once again, I just want to thank you guys, everyone, for listening. I hope that if this is a topic that you are interested in and that you were also maybe inspired or had your own reflections about all these kinds of things, well, then I am glad, and we are glad that that happened. Once again, this is your hosts, Zarina, Stacy, and Zeri. We will see you again on our next podcast. Thank you very much, guys.